amateur sources confirming that ISI attempts were there to spy on Hyderabad blast probe. They say that nothing critical has been leaked, but immediate changes in standard operating procedures are being considered. Kamaljeet Sandhu tracking the latest for us. Kamal, just bring us up to speed. What do we know?
We've come to know from our sources is that an NSG officer, major in the rank in NSG, has passed on some information. We've been told that this information was not crucial, but basic details of the officer who went to the blast site for post-analysis of the bomb, going to the extent of saying that the officer in charge was not aware of the NIA team, which also went on the same plane, the BSF plane which had taken them on an emergency flight to Hyderabad. But definitely it has raised alarm. It has caused a lot of concern within NSG, and they're saying they're considering changing the SOPs and bringing up to speed and sending a letter to almost all quarters so that information like this is not passed on. The information that we're also getting is the fact that after the Hyderabad blast had taken place, a call came to the NSG exchange, and the officer was told that a person on the other line was a MI officer, or was made to believe that. On counter checking, they found out that there was no such number which really came from where the call had come in from. That was a little bit of a concern, but they're saying no crucial information, no sensitive information was passed on, except for the number of officers and the names of the officers who were going for the post-analysis of the blast.
So you're saying that no critical information was given out, but at this stage standard operating procedures are being reconsidered, just how they have to go about it as well. But there have been very little leads as well as far as progress is concerned in the investigation itself. Just the other day, one heard about people being identified on CCTV footage, which is of course taken to other inmates as well for questioning. Just take us through how this pans out and in terms of an impact on the overall investigation.
Well, we've seen in the past also that usually leads coming in are very slow. Remember, there have been almost 12 blasts since 26/11. A lot of cases have been cracked, but a lot of others have still to be solved. In that sense, we can really say that the investigations would likely to be handed over to NIA today itself. And on the other hand, if you talk about this particular instance happening, remember NSG is not a part of the investigative team, it's a terror force. In that sense, this has been seen as a giving out of information. This is an unauthorized information, and they're getting into procedure and getting an SOP, which basically says information like this should not be passed on to anybody on the phone whoever is claiming to be. That's not the way to go about it. But remember, this was a junior officer who had given out information. But as far as the blast is concerned in Hyderabad, the twin blast, we know that NIA had got some leads. Remember, they're looking at the Indian Mujahideen module.
Right. I will try and reconnect that link with Kamal in just a moment, but certainly making an important point here. Amateur sources confirming to headlines today that in fact there was an ISI attempt to spy on the Hyderabad blast probe. They do say that nothing critical was leaked, but immediate changes in the standard operating procedures are being considered at this stage. Let's remind our viewers once again, reiterate at this stage that sources pointing out that nothing critical as far as the investigating probe agencies, as far as their process is concerned. The overall probe as well remains unaffected by these developments, but it is well safe to say that there was in fact an ISI attempt, it is understood, to try and spy on the probe, try and spy on proceedings of the Hyderabad blast probe. We'll try and reconnect with Kamaljeet, who's been tracking developments on this story. Kamal, what else do we know about changes in procedure that will be followed by investigators, certainly if they know that there has been an attempt to breach a protocol, try and spy on proceedings? What do we know in terms of changes which will now be implemented?
Well, as far as intelligence is concerned, remember Pakistan has been trying to get some information in an unauthorized way. It also means tricking into some officials, maybe at a low end, but we've seen over the past few years, at times they have been successful. In this particular instance, the information was passed on, was considered unauthorized, and that is why this officer has been asked to explain in written as to under what circumstances did he share the information. We've also been made to believe by our sources in NSG that the force believes that there was no continuous link up with ISI officer here. There was no no past history
Kamal,
of this
just stay
officer.
on for a moment. We're also joined by Jane Roy, former IB Commissioner. Sir, your thoughts on this development that has come through an ISI attempt to spy on the Hyderabad blast probe, sir? Mr. Roy, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So your thoughts on this information that Headline City has been able to access? There was an ISI attempt, it is understood, to try and spy on proceedings on the investigations into the Hyderabad blast case, sir.
You see, this is what preliminary information has come. Does not disclose any outside serious lapse of secrecy or security. What has happened, the NSG's role is the bomb detection. They either provide physical protection or action, or say there was only a bomb detection spot which is done. And some anonymous call and some officers gave the name of persons who have gone for the inquiry or say bomb detection operation. So therefore, it does not seem to be a very, I would say, a serious affair as far as the information which is in public domain. So I think there's no very serious lapse. It is probably some kind of a, on a phone conversation which disclosed only the team which has gone there.
But Mr. Roy, given that there is a concerted effort which is being made to spy on investigations, you think it makes better sense, of course, to tighten up existing protocols and as far as your own operating procedures are concerned?
You see, this is some kind of a minor lapse. And firstly, secondly, the investigation in even terrorism cases to a large extent is an open affair. Only what you featured a small part, which is about inquiring about persons, telephone inquiries, and what all kind of things. So therefore, I think my first reaction preliminary is that we should not read too much in it. It is a lapse, but a minor lapse.
All right, so last question to you. So it's fair to say that you don't expect this to have a massive impact on the overall investigations either?
I don't think. What has come is only that it disclosed the names of persons who have gone there for bomb detection operation. And in any case, it would be in public when you are physically there and doing all kind of survey and investigation. So I don't think, as far as whatever information is public domain, on the basis of which it can be said that it is a major lapse.
All right, Mr. Roy, thanks so much for joining us. Editor Strategic Affairs, Gaurav Sawant, also now with us. Gaurav, it appears, at least in Mr. Roy's opinion, that this isn't such a major breach of security as far as passing on this information which was given in terms of names of the officials who were going for that probe, but certainly a heightened sense of security as well, now given that there is a concerted effort to spy on proceedings on investigations.
No, this is a major breach, Aditya. There is no denying the fact. There are standard operating procedures that are laid out which have been violated. Even if, if you recall, when IC 814 was hijacked, the same principle was used, that an anonymous phone call came and somebody from MHA claimed to be speaking and said, release the plane, and the plane was released. So, there is a standard operating procedure. In case somebody calls and says, I'm calling from military intelligence, I want information, the standard operating procedure is you take down his name and his number and you call back after verifying before you give information. And information is only shared on a secure line. It is never shared on an insecure line. So this is a very major breach on the part of the officer who divulged details. It's strange that a call came from across the border. It came from a hostile country and information was shared by the MHA. That is point one. Point two, you never want the adversary or the enemy in this case to find out who are the officers who are investigating the case, because they could be compromised. You never give out these details on an open line. These are always given across through a secure channel. Why would you want the enemy to know who are the officers who are investigating, even if it's a post-blast investigation team? Why should the adversary know who are the officers who are investigating this? So on the part of this officer, it's a major lapse. On the part of MHA, it's a lapse that actually needs to be investigated in the right earnest, because there is a protocol If somebody calls you and says, I'm calling from the office, even if he says, I'm calling from the office of the Director General Military Intelligence,
you call them back
on the racks. You call them on the red automatic exchange if you have access to it, and if you don't have access to it.
Gaurav, make an important point that this is a serious lapse. It must be investigated in the right earnest and quickly at that as well. Gaurav Sam will continue tracking more reactions from the amateur as well on the story. Thanks so much, Gaurav.